Our top story at this hour, the Election Commission's restrictions in the 5 poll-bound states ends today. The poll panel is going to be holding a review meeting to discuss whether the curbs should be lifted or not. The panel will hold a series of virtual meetings seeking inputs from the Union Health Ministry, experts and the chief electoral officers of 5 states. The meeting with state electoral officers will start at 11 this morning, while the meeting with the Union Health Secretary and Health Secretaries of poll-bound states will start at 12:30 p.m. The panel had extended its restrictions on physical gatherings, mass rallies and roadshows till the 22nd of January in 5 poll-bound states on the 15th of January. These curbs were announced along with the poll dates on the 8th of Jan in the view of rising COVID cases. However, relaxation was granted to extend indoor meetings strength to 300 people or to 50% of the hall capacity. All right, let's talk about the latest COVID count. Cases have dipped in the worst affected cities of Mumbai and Delhi, but COVID is tightening its grip in South India. Cases are crossing the 45,000 mark in Kerala and Karnataka daily. While Kerala has tightened curbs, Karnataka has revoked the weekend curfew, refueling the debate on whether to open or not.
The third COVID wave has loosened its grip on North India. But a significant surge in cases has been recorded in South India. For the last 2 days, Karnataka has recorded over 47,000 cases of COVID. Infections are multiplying at an unprecedented rate in the state. Amid the COVID explosion, the state government has decided to ease weekend curbs with a caveat. The curfew will be reimposed if hospitalizations go up. Further south, the situation is different. As a COVID tsunami sweeps Kerala, the state government has announced fresh curbs. With over 40,000 cases being recorded daily, the positivity rate has exceeded to 40.21%. A total lockdown has been announced for the next 2 Sundays. Malls and theatres will remain completely shut on Sundays. There will be online classes for school students. Schools will not be completely shut down unless COVID clusters form. Religious functions are to be held online. Each district administration can decide on new restrictions based on cases, including for theatres and bars.
We have a total of 1,99,000 plus patients now. Only 3% are hospitalized. Among them, 0.7 needs oxygen beds. 0.6% is in ICU. That means that we have the hospital occupancy is very less now. So there is nothing to worry about. But everyone should be, very careful. You wear mask, observe social distance and all. So that's it.
In Delhi, the weekend curfew will remain in the national capital despite a decline in daily COVID caseload. Delhi Lieutenant Governor Anil Bajal turned down the government's recommendation to lift the weekend curfew.
दिल्ली के अंदर नंबर ऑफ केसेस भी कम हो रहे हैं, पॉजिटिविटी भी कम हो रही है. इस टाइम काफ़ी कंट्रोल में है. 28,000 पर आने के बाद, पीक आने के बाद अब तेज़ी से केस नीचे गिर रहे हैं और पॉजिटिविटी भी तेज़ी से 30% से जाने के बाद घटते घटते 17-18% पे आ गई है. तो दिल्ली के अंदर पीक जा चुका है और केसेस कम हो रहे हैं.
Weekend curfew will stay intact from 10 a.m. on Friday till 5 a.m. on Mondays. The odd-even formula for shops will also continue in Delhi. Public transport can run at full capacity and private offices have been allowed to run at 50% strength. The same rule will apply to pubs, restaurants, theatres and malls. Only essential services will be exempt from COVID restrictions. Experts say the peak in Delhi and Mumbai are over, but hospitalizations may not go down soon.
You know, how bad is the situation in terms of the peak getting over in Mumbai city, for example? A lot is being said that the worst in Bombay is over. What do you have to say?
Well, worst is always in 2-3 ways. So, for example, you can have a worst in terms of number of new cases. I think the worst is over indeed.
In Mumbai?
In Mumbai, yeah. I think the cases are on the way down. We have already crossed the peak over there. Even in Delhi, we have crossed the peak. We may not see a decline in the hospitalizations and ICUs and deaths for some time. So in that sense, the worst is not over. And while there is no evidence in any of the global data of high amounts of MISC, we will only get to know, in due course of time.
India is in the middle of a third wave of COVID. The wave is peaking in different states at different times. With Sneha Mordani in New Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, in spite of a decline in COVID cases across the national capital, fatalities have almost doubled in Delhi within a week. While the week ending the 12th of January witnessed 119 deaths, the next week saw over 200 deaths. Here's more.
12,306 cases in 24 hours, 21.48% test positivity rate. The COVID graph in Delhi is showing a decline. While active cases have surged, the capital's health infrastructure is not feeling any pressure, unlike the second wave. The Union Health Ministry says even when the active caseload rose to 75,000, hospital admissions stayed in the 1,600 to 2,600 range.
We have noted an increasing uptake of home tests being observed. In the whole of 2021, we saw only 3,000 home tests that were used. And in these 20 days, we have seen 2 lakh home tests which have been used.
The one cause for concern is deaths. The city recorded 43 deaths on Thursday. A close look at the Delhi government's health department data reveals that in the last 1 week, over 200 people lost their lives to COVID. While between January 6th and January 12th, Delhi recorded nearly 119 deaths. The next week saw 220 fatalities. Health experts, however, say that a majority of these patients had comorbidities and were not fully vaccinated.
Person who have casualties, they are either unvaccinated or they have received only 1 dose. But those who are fully vaccinated, in that category, death is less. So majority of deaths are seen in the unvaccinated group.
तो इस वक्त केवल वो मरीज जो ज्यादा गंभीर हैं वो अस्पताल पहुंच रहे हैं, जिस वजह से ऐसा देखने में लगता है कि मृत्यु दर बढ़ गई है.
The data and the trend in the national capital suggest that those with comorbidity and those who were not fully vaccinated are the people who are in the vulnerable group or the risk group right now in the national capital. With video journalist Sachin, this is Amit Bhardwaj for India Today from Delhi.
Now, Europe is considering a new COVID-19 strategy, accepting the virus. UK has already declared that Omicron wave is over and is going maskless, returning to work and doing away with vaccine passports. Spain is also laying the groundwork to treat the next infection surge, not as an emergency, but as an illness that is here to stay. Will this be the way how we will all start living with coronavirus in the next few days or so? And is this the right way to go about things?
Mandatory face covering, COVID passes, and work from home guidance. All of this is set to become a thing of the past in a handful of countries in Europe. Infections are falling in some parts of the world, but the WHO has not said the pandemic has moved to the epidemic stage. And that too, if it happens, is not the best case scenario.
Endemic in itself does not mean good. Endemic just means it's here forever. What we need to do is get to low levels of disease incidence with maximum vaccination of our populations so nobody has to die. That's the end of the emergency in my view. That's the end of the pandemic.
The sword continues to hang over our heads and nothing can be left to chance when it comes to viruses, especially this virus that has mutated hundreds of times in the last 2 years. The WHO has strictly warned against treating the Omicron variant, the 5th variant of concern, as our path to endemicity.
The problem is we are not at the driving seat. It is the virus which is calling the shots. And if you see the Omicron, it has emerged from the original SARS-CoV-2, not from the Delta, Alpha, Beta or Gamma. So we never know when will be the next variant emerge. It may be 6 months or it may be next week.
While experts sound a note of caution, the United Kingdom, one of the COVID epicenters wants to go about their lives, living the new normal. It hopes to lift the curbs.
The good news is the number of people in ICU has been coming down, certainly in London, which was the epicenter. The level of staff absence in education has remained pretty flat. It was 8% before Christmas. It's at about 8.5% at the moment. So I'm confident that when we review this on the 26th of January, as we said we would do, then we'll be in a much better place to lift some of these restrictions. But it's worth remembering that because we stuck to Plan B, this economy is the most open economy in Europe.
Spain, with one of Europe's highest vaccination rates, has its government laying the groundwork to treat the next infection surge not as an emergency but an illness that is here to stay.
We're fortunate that Omicron, although it is highly transmissible, nonetheless is not as pathogenic. But the sheer volume of people who are getting infected overrides that rather less level of pathogenicity.
In India, where vaccination has picked up pace and region-specific lockdowns continue, doctors say that the virus cannot be taken for granted and the protocols should not change. In the past too, countries lifted the curbs in the hope that pandemic is ending, but each time the virus has made a comeback. Is it too early to predict a return to the normal life?
So what is, in your opinion, the reason behind countries like Europe, Spain is doing it, London is doing it, doing away with isolation, not making face coverings mandatory? What do you think of this move?
I am actually not. So if you look at who
Team India suffered yet